I'm Ben Meiselas from Legal AF, joined by Michael Popok. I wanted to do this video with you, Michael Popok, to address 1 week out. It feels like a year. I don't know if these Trump criminal cases age like dog years or something even more, because it feels like this has happened a long time ago. I mean, the arraignment was last week, but so much has happened. As of the time of this recording, there's been no recusal motion regarding Judge Eileen Cannon. She has not self-recused. She's not going to self-recuse. Special counsel Jack Smith has not filed a recusal motion. They're proceeding as though Judge Eileen Cannon's the judge. You've got Judge Bruce Reinhart as the magistrate judge. And we've seen some very, very, very critical things happening already. I mean, we've got Judge Eileen Cannon setting a speedy trial date pursuant to the Speedy Trial Act of 1974. She followed the law, setting the trial date of special counsel Jack Smith's criminal case against Donald Trump within the statutory 70-day period. It's set on August 14th of 2023. Let me repeat that one more time. August 14th of 2023. Although, if you look at the trial setting order issued by Judge Eileen Cannon, it does mention, of course, subject to continuances and showings of good cause by the parties why there needs to be delays. There's a bunch of big motion hearing deadlines set in July, where undoubtedly Trump's lawyers are going to be asking for a continuance. They're going to say they're filing a motion to dismiss. They're going to be saying they need a lot more time to file pretrial motions and motions in limine. So I don't think this trial goes. I'm very confident it's not going to go on the date it's currently set for, August 14, 2023. But I do think there's a chance this case does go in 2024. And I think it could potentially go early 2024. Or do you think Judge Eileen Cannon's going to kick this out? I want to get your, even further than 2024, until after the election. I want to get your take on that. It is Judge Eileen Cannon, after all. But she did make another ruling as well that followed the law. I guess it is a bare minimal threshold standard where we're applauding Judge Eileen Cannon for doing the most basic thing and following the law. When special counsel Jack Smith filed a motion for protective order regarding the non-classified but confidential documents in the case, limiting Donald Trump's ability to review these non-classified but confidential discovery records. He has to only look at it in the presence of his attorneys. He can't take notes on it. He can't take the documents with him. They're not his. They're not his boxes. And by the way, as I say that out loud, in many ways, by Donald Trump's lawyer stipulating to that, isn't it also contradicting Donald Trump's allegation that those documents are his in the first place, which we know is a complete and utter lie when Donald Trump says that? But anyway, Judge Eileen Cannon, she referred the protective order to Judge Bruce Reinhart, who granted the protective order motion, which was stipulated by all parties. But another correct ruling. Again, it limits the disclosure of documents to Donald Trump, but it also shows special counsel Jack Smith is ready to go, and he wants to get these documents out because he wants no excuses why there cannot be a speedy trial. And then, of course, the other major development, these two parts to this Brett Baer interview with Donald Trump, where, Donald Trump basically told special counsel Jack Smith, look, normally any other criminal defendant would have the right to invoke their Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. There's no right in a criminal case like this to a deposition of a criminal defendant at all. But Trump's like, you know what? Let me highlight for you all of the key things you would want in my deposition, and let me give it to you. And because I am the criminal defendant in this case, the party opponent, if you will. There's no hearsay objection that can be made by special counsel Jack Smith, by Donald Trump, when special counsel Jack Smith tries to introduce this evidence, because it is a statement by a party opponent, expressly not hearsay. So all of that will come in as evidence. And finally, one more point, because we saw the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office, through the Assistant District Attorney Matthew Colangelo, filed an opposition to Donald Trump's motion to try to recuse Judge Juan Merchan. But we see in this recusal motion, and the opposition to the recusal motion, rather, by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, all of those social media posts by Donald Trump, each time he posts, all of that was exhibits by Matthew Colangelo, the Assistant District Attorney, in opposing Donald Trump's motion. So this is all evidence, and great evidence for the prosecutors. And here with this Bret Baier interview, really chef's kiss interview by Bret Baier. I want to get your take, Michael Popok, on all of these developments.
Yeah, I think it's that we're watching the genius of Jack Smith and his team of prosecutors, who I've said ad nauseum, they have not made a one false step in the 7 months that they've had the case, not one. Stripping attorney-client privilege away from Donald Trump's lawyers or from Donald Trump himself, having them testify, subpoenaing just the right amount of people, getting witnesses to cooperate like Mark Meadows, leading all the way to even the filing. I know a lot of people, there's some incoming fire coming into Jack Smith's team because, well, why didn't they wait a couple of days to see this Supreme Court decision, which said that a wrong venue is not ultimately fatal. You could always retry Donald Trump. And even there, I don't think he made a false step. They knew about the Supreme Court decision that was coming, and they specifically chose West Palm Beach, knowing that there was a high risk of getting Judge Cannon again assigned to the case, but a new and improved Judge Cannon, who's already been through the grill, the grist mill, and on the losing end of it with the Department of Justice at least 3 times, and with her bosses, Chief Judge Pryor at the 11th Circuit, and 2 panels of the 11th Circuit, when she screwed up and effed up, tried to interfere with the criminal investigation after her magistrate, Bruce Reinhart, the same magistrate here, issued search warrants on Mar-a-Lago based on a probable cause and affidavits and testimony that he heard in his chambers in secret, and then allowed, of course, the search warrant to go out. This is a new and improved Aileen Cannon. Now, look, I thought that a combination of things would happen, and some of which could still happen. One is, I thought maybe that the trial was going to be in Miami. That was a little too far for Aileen Cannon, 6 hours round trip away from there to handle the case. And that would give Chief Judge Altanaga in Miami the opportunity to replace her. But apparently they're going to let her try this case, at least for now, at the hearing level, and maybe the trial, in Fort Pierce, Florida. I'll take a break while everybody goes and looks up on the map and Google Earth where Fort Pierce, Florida is, but it's far away in the Southern District, at the very top north of it. It's a very small town. Not sure it's prepared for the onslaught of Donald Trump's trial, but we'll leave that for another day, although that other day could be August 14th. But I agree with you, Ben. I don't think it will be. So you got new and improved Judge Cannon, who is again married with a very seasoned, much more experienced and mature jurist in Bruce Reinhart than she is. He's been a magistrate for a long, long time. She's been a federal judge for a minute and a half, and it shows. So, but we have that coupling again. And to be frank, for those that aren't familiar with the criminal process in federal court, the vast majority of issues before trial, except for motions to dismiss the indictment and things of that nature, and even and maybe suppression of evidence motions, are handled by the magistrates on a day-to-day basis. Just garden variety stuff, discovery issues, search warrants, arraignments. We've seen it all. Some people might be sitting going, wow, I would have thought that would have been the judge that would have handled that. That's how much responsibility is given to magistrate judges. And it looks like Aileen Cannon got the memo that she shouldn't do anything out of the ordinary, and she should, just be the point guard and pass the ball to Bruce Reinhart and let him score, right, to continue the analogy, on all of these major issues in a criminal proceeding. Now, she is the trial judge and will preside, at least for now, unless she screws up, over the trial and the jury trial, because this is a jury trial. And there are some things that are really, really important that will likely go to her if she's still the judge, like a motion to dismiss the indictment, which we know is coming, a motion to suppress evidence, because we know the other side, Donald Trump and his lawyers, don't like that Evan Corcoran, their former lawyer, their former colleague, is witness number one for the prosecution, along with his audio tapes and his handwritten notes that completely and utterly destroyed Donald Trump and any ability for Donald Trump to put on a defense. How do we know that? Because it's in the indictment, chapter and verse. So they hate Evan Corcoran being against them, and they're going to try to suppress his testimony by way of motion practice. That, I would presume, goes to Judge Eileen Cannon if she's still the judge. Now, what I think the game of chicken here that I think the Department of Justice is playing, but they're much more sophisticated at it than Eileen Cannon, is they're going to let Eileen Cannon, they're going to sit back and watch her. And when she makes one wrong move, especially about top secret and classified documents, they're going on a fast track, right? This is like the fast pass at Disney, right to the 11th Circuit. And they'll have a willing and waiting audience to reverse Judge Cannon because they've done it so many times in the past, and they know that she's a jurist that's kind of over her skis and an underweight here. This needs a heavyweight, and she's a flyweight at best. So she's making sure that everything is done according to the book. If the Department of Justice, Ben, sees that she's stepping, if she's not coloring in the lines properly, they're going right to the 11th Circuit. So they have an outlet pass. They have a circuit breaker for an Eileen Cannon trying to go rogue again and doing things that she's not supposed to be doing. If she stays in her lane or close to it, and Reinhart handles the day-to-day, then we should have confidence that the Department of Justice is going to put on the best case possible. The only question is when. Now, I do like the fact, although some people are already suspicious that it's too early, I don't think you could ever have too early if you're a prosecutor. Jack Smith said in his press conference, we're going to give this guy a speedy trial. He's presumed innocent. He wants to prove himself. Speedy trial. She gave it to them. Now everybody's going to have to peel her back, reel her in, Judge Cannon, because she's given such an early trial date, as if this is like a garden variety robbery somewhere, as opposed to the first federal prosecution of a former president in our history, and given the issues at Mar-a-Lago and the 37 counts against him. So now you're going to see a little bit of the defense and the prosecution asking for more time. One is going to ask for a lot more time. The other, Jack Smith, is going to ask for just a slightly more amount of time, maybe another 3 or 4 months. And there, Judge Cannon's going to have to decide whether it's appropriate to put this trial, which I think it is, in the first or second quarter of 2024. She may be thinking, you know what? There's two ways that you can help out Donald Trump, if that's even in her mind any longer. One is you give him a fast trial and let him get acquitted, and then he doesn't have the overhang and the black cloud over him while he's trying out for the presidency. That's one theory. The other one is, well, I could also help him by kicking it way past so he gets elected president, and then we deal with the aftermath. I don't know. Right now, it looks like she's on the, you know what? You want to clear your name? You keep going on television and all these things. I'll give you a fast trial. You can clear your name there. In any event, this tug of war between the prosecution and the defense has got a very short rope now because of Judge Cannon in terms of the date for this trial. And it certainly slots early. This would not interfere with the March trial of Judge Merchan and the 34 counts in New York for business fraud against Donald Trump. It wouldn't interfere with the October trial of the civil case for $250 million of Letitia James. It wouldn't interfere with the trials related to his defamation. She would have this part of the calendar, this part of the real estate, all to herself. And now we're going to see what happens in July when the motion practice starts flying in from both sides as to the actual date for this thing. But I actually was heartened that she, rather than say, let's have a hearing and a status conference to talk about dates, she put down a marker. Let's talk August 14th, and you can walk me back from the edge, but I'm starting at August 14th. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, so I think that's an important point, right? Because there is the Speedy Trial Act, which basically is a way of codifying in federal law the Sixth Amendment, right? The Sixth Amendment states, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. There's a number of rights packed in there. The relevant one for our analysis is that the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. So what is speedy? Well, over time, the Supreme Court has had a lot of cases on this issue, and based on the development of the case law, there was codified in federal law 18 U.S. Code, Section 3161, time limits and exclusions, subsection A, which says, in any case involving a defendant charged with an offense, the appropriate judicial officer at the earliest practicable time shall, after consultation with the counsel for the defendant and the attorney for the government, set the case for trial on a day certain, or list it for trial on a weekly or other short-term trial calendar at a place within the judicial district so as to assure a speedy trial. You go to subsection C1, and it defines what is speedy. In any case in which a plea of not guilty is entered, the trial of defendant charged in an information or indictment with the commission of an offense shall, meaning there's no choice that Judge Eileen Cannon has, shall commence within 70 days from the filing date and make public of the information or indictment, or from the date the defendant has appeared before a judicial officer of the court in which such charge is pending, whichever date last occurs, which would be the arraignment, which occurred if, whatever it was last week. If a defendant consents in writing to be tried before a magistrate judge on a complaint, the trial shall commence within 70 days from the date of such consent. However, you brought up a great point, Michael Popok, which is that what the judge could have done is said, yes, you have a right to a speedy trial, but I want to have a status conference immediately to address these issues right away and to determine if Donald Trump was going to waive his right to a speedy trial, and to ask, are you going to waive your right to a speedy trial? Force the issue right away. Go to Special Counsel Jack Smith and Special Counsel Jack Smith's team and basically say, are you going to need more time? Will you be ready in 70 days? Force them to give an answer, and then set this kind of longer term calendar. May not even set a trial date, just set a motion calendar, and then have another status conference if the parties agree to it. She did not do that. Just right away, here's your trial date. I'm ready to go. What are you all going to do next? Now, I don't think that Special Counsel Jack Smith will ask for any continuance at all. Special Counsel Jack Smith will have his team ready to have this case tried.
I think he's ready right now. I think you're right. Yeah. He's ready right now.
So they're going to wait for Donald Trump's team to ask for the continuance. Trump's team will almost certainly have the trial after the election, is what I expect to see, a motion to that effect fairly soon. But what this forces, what Judge Eileen Cannon's forcing to happen, and not kind of give kid gloves to the fact, is forcing Trump's lawyers to make that argument fairly quickly because time's running out.
Can I talk about a poker tell that we like to talk about on our network? You know how I know that Donald Trump hates the fact with his lawyers that she set this date so early? We didn't see a quote from Stephen Chung. No Stephen Chung quote on behalf of Donald Trump. Normally, Stephen Chung comments on everything, talks about the Hunter Biden plea deal. I didn't see him say, oh, this is great because Donald Trump wants nothing more than to clear his name as quickly as possible so it's not an overhang and an interference with the election. Did we hear that? Wait, I'm still listening. Stephen Chung, are you there?
And you can't attack Judge Eileen Cannon if you're Stephen Chung. Because you were praising her before as doing all the papers. So they really don't know what to do about this right now.
Yeah, agreed. Look, I think this is, I'm not buying into what I've seen on the internet of some conspiracy. Oh, sure. It's probably what Donald Trump wanted all along. Trust me. Ben and I are practicing attorneys. We tried criminal cases. This is not what the defense wanted. If they did, it's too smart by half. They don't want a marker laid down by the judge without having met with her, where they could have said, we waive our right to a speedy trial and put it back, as you said, Ben, on the prosecution to be the bad guy asking for more time or less time. But the reality is somebody's going to be filing a motion, and it'll be Donald Trump, and it'll be Todd Blanche and Chris Keiss, his lawyers. And they'll be arguing that they need 60 days or 90 days to do their motion to dismiss the indictment. And there's very pressing matters about suppression of evidence and attacking the grand jury and judge. We need at least 4 to 6 months to do all that. And look, those arguments actually, if we want to give other recent history, we're all becoming expert on federal criminal practice. We saw in the DC circuit courts, and people like Bannon, when he was a defendant, and others, they were given long ropes. I mean, we were all like, wow, Bannon's trial was set a year out, 9 months, and that was just a 2-count contempt of Congress. He got 9 months before trial was setting by Judge Nichols. Here, Judge Cannon's like, how about next Tuesday? Are you ready next Tuesday? I got an opening. So it's a whole other world in the Southern District of Florida where I practice. And I don't know if Cannon is sort of bending over backwards now, like she's like a judicial Gumby to try to get this right. And she's actually now leaning over towards the prosecution and away from Trump. But she's doing something because, she's treating this, like I said before, like, some senior citizen stuck up a bank instead of Donald Trump stole our nation's top secret classified documents.
Well, I want to talk about one other thing as well, though, because also within the trial order, the trial would take place within Fort Pierce. So there is a venue that would probably be more favorable to Donald Trump based on my reading of it. So it's not like all gravy right there. Number two, there's a lot of other things that she could do along the way that can be problematic. But I do want to address something I see in the comments somewhat frequently, or it's just a question that's appeared. Did she set the trial date for, August 14th? Because that was around the time that Fani Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, said that she would be ready to indict Donald Trump. And is Judge Eileen Cannon trying to do that to block Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis's ability to indict Donald Trump in that time period? No, there's no correlation between those two things. Ultimately, if Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis indicts, and that happens to be when the trial is taking place. And again, I do not believe that the trial is actually going to go at that time. I would be very surprised and shocked if it went at that time. But assuming it did, there would be, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you're not to watch what's on TV, and you have to. We're not going to be in session today, and then Donald Trump would just go to Georgia, and he would be arraigned there in Georgia. So it would not impact. Now, an August trial date impacts other proceedings. It could cause delay in the New York Attorney General Letitia James civil case, which is set for trial in October. Potentially, it could maneuver some of these other cases around, but it's not being done on that time as a way to interfere with Fani Willis. It just isn't. I'll give you the final word, Michael Popok.
Well, you're right about the location, because the way the Southern District of Florida works on jury selection, it will pull heavily from St. Lucie County, where Fort Pierce is located. And St. Lucie County does tend to be more conservative and gets a lot of New Yorkers, but like the Republican New Yorkers, to relocate there. But and so, yeah, I'd rather it have been in Miami, to be honest with you. Although Miami pulls from a heavy we saw, 100 of them on the street, not a lot, and 50 of them at a Cuban restaurant. But there is a heavy amount of Republicans in Miami-Dade County. The best county for Democrats is West Palm Beach, or Palm Beach County, along with Broward. Those are the ones that, Hillary and Joe Biden won by large numbers. They won Miami-Dade County by only 3 points, Biden, in the last election. Obama had won it by a lot more. So, that state is ever evolving. And, they say the more north you go in Florida, the more south you are. And I mean it exactly. It's more rural and southern, and then mixed in with New Yorkers and Northeasterners who have moved down to St. Lucie County. And so, of all the counties that are the 4 counties that make up the Southern District, that one is probably the one that would kind of bend a little bit more likely that there could be a Trumper in there. But these are the risks that you're going to have to take. I mean, if the jury, we just have to take this one step at a time to get to a jury, put on the best trial possible, and know that there is an appellate outlet for the feds if something goes awry, because a juror gets hung. The jury gets hung because they got a holdout. But let's get to the prosecution, the indictment, which we've already gotten to, and the conviction, and then we'll worry about that later.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump's going to be kicking and screaming and not going anywhere, not trying to go anywhere near that trial. I'm ultimately confident in Special Counsel Jack Smith's team and and his ability, his team's ability, and the strength of the evidence. There's a reason that the Republicans attack our judicial system. The MAGA Republicans attack our judicial system the way they do. Look, our judicial system is a place that's evidence-based. It's not perfect by any means, but it's certainly the best system, one of the best systems out there. So we'll leave you with that. Ben Meiselas, Michael Popok, Legal AF. Subscribe to the Legal AF podcast wherever you get audio podcasts. Just subscribe to Legal AF. Over the weekend, this was the top news podcast in the whole world for the weekend, thanks to the Legal AF and Meidas Mighty community. So thank you all. Always fun doing these hits together with you, Popok, and we will chat soon. So I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Popok, and we'll see you next time. Shout out to the Meidas Mighty.
See you Saturday.
Hit subscribe.
Hey, Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.